You still, sir, have the Los Angeles Rams at number 1, even though they lost. What in
Where they
the
should
hell
be.
are you thinking?
Tough call, because I did think about the Seahawks here, but then, you know what? There was a little voice inside me saying, you know what? 2 weeks ago, the Rams beat the Seahawks. Like, that did matter. They barely beat them at home. I get all that, but they did beat them. So I just look, and that's how rankings go most of the time. Oh, number one team loses. They got to move down. But you look at the body of work and you say, well, if I was going to penalize every single team in the NFL for a bad performance, we'd have no power rankings anymore. It would just be, we would just sit here and talk about LeBron for a half hour, because every team in the NFL is flawed this year. Every team has had bad performances. We talked about this on Inside Coverage last night. One of the weirder seasons I can remember where there are no elite teams. We're not going to look back in 20 years and be like, wow, do you remember the 2025 blank, whoever wins the Super Bowl, right? We're going to get kind of a random champion this year. Like, it's just going to be like one of those teams just at the 5 seed or the 7 seed or whoever who gets hot for 3 weeks and wins it all, because clearly no great teams. But I think the body of work still says the Rams are the best team based on head-to-head versus the Seahawks. That win is the only reason
Frank,
they stayed number one.
Let me ask you this, because an incredibly intelligent, brilliant, frankly, dashingly good-looking man once told me repeatedly that the Denver Broncos were 2 plays away from being undefeated. In fact, I think he told me on this show over and over. It's you, Frank. It's you. Every week you're like, oh, the Broncos are 2 plays away from being undefeated. Why not put the Broncos at 1?
Because, every week with them, I keep expecting more. I keep expecting, okay, just blow out the Commanders. Just put Marcus Mariota away in the fourth quarter, and your offense goes 0 for 4. They needed one drive in the fourth quarter to put that game away, and they went 0 for 4, an interception and 3 punts. And, I think they've won 9 in a row, something like that. And they've won 7 of those games by 4 or fewer points. I'm all about margin of victory does matter when you're trying to discuss which teams are the most powerful going forward and trying to predict what teams are good. And I just look at the Broncos each and every week, and I think they are a little underrated and underappreciated. But also the critics who say, like, whatever, they're just sneaking by every team every week. That's true too. So I just look at the full body of work and still say the 2 best teams are in the NFC West.
Because if you want to play the hypothetical game, then we can say, sure, they're 2 plays away from being undefeated. They're also like 6 or 7 or 8 plays from being below 500.
Like 500, right?
So,
yeah, I know.
Right,
It's crazy.
yeah. So the margins for the Broncos have been so thin on both sides. But before we get to the next group, the Broncos above the Patriots. Now, I know we're splitting hairs here when we're talking about great teams, Super Bowl contending teams. Why the Broncos over the Patriots?
Very, very close. And I thought about it. Like, the Patriots' schedule does matter here, right? The Patriots have played the weakest schedule in the NFL. We've all heard this before. We know that they've had kind of a cakewalk. They haven't played too many good quarterbacks. They haven't, but they do have 2 quality road wins on their resume, at the Buccaneers, at the Bills. That does legitimize things. So it's very, very close. I did think about moving the Patriots up to 3 last night, the way they kind of handled the Giants. But then I'm like, the Giants are 2-11. Am I giving them that much credit for this, really? So I still think the Broncos, and I came back to what I usually come back to. If these 2 teams played on a neutral field in Omaha, Nebraska on Wednesday, who would I pick? I'd still pick the Broncos. I think the Broncos are slightly better, but it's not by much. I mean, Drake May's having an MVP type season, and Mike Vrabel's a heck of a coach. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with what the Patriots are doing. It's so often, and Bears fans, oh boy, sensitive Bears fans, take this the wrong way when I'm like, you're so far ahead of your record. You're getting lucky. You're fortunate. You're really not as good as your record indicates. That is true for the Patriots, but it doesn't even matter. At this point, the Patriots are the only 11-win team in the NFL. And if you're 2 home wins away from the Super Bowl, nobody's going to remember strength of schedule if you raise a banner. That doesn't go on the bottom. There's no asterisk saying, yeah, they won a Super Bowl, but they had a really weak strength of schedule. That doesn't matter. You can still get everything's in front of the Patriots right now. It's just that, yes, they've had fortune catching a really, really easy schedule this season.
That should be a note to the NFL. Maybe no more London or Berlin games. We need more games in
Oh, please.
Omaha,
Yeah.
Nebraska. We'll put that in the suggestion
Yes.
box.
So I usually use
Let's-
Wichita, Kansas with that example. I don't know why I came
That's a
up with
good one
Omaha,
too.
Nebraska right there.
I like that one too.
All lovely Midwestern cities in these United States. But let's get on to our next grouping of Frank's Power Rankings. We have the Green Bay Packers at 5, up 2 spots. The Chicago Bears skyrocketing to 6. Eagles drop 2 to 7th, and Buffalo Bills up 3 to 8. Let's look at the Bears and Eagles, because that's, I think, the perfect comparison of a game that we literally just saw. The Bears didn't just beat the Eagles, they dog walked them. Frank, in that game, did you learn more about the Bears or more about the Eagles?
It might be the Bears. I mean, look, people are still commenting on the post I had about me calling the Bears frauds, which I've capitulated to and said I was wrong. I've way overstated. I way overstated it in the moment, and I knew I way overstated it in the moment. But still, a couple weeks ago, I said Bears haven't beat anybody. They still have a negative point differential. They're still 25th in DVOA. Like, this team is not as good as its record, folks. But you go and play the Eagles like that, and you beat them that soundly. Like, that wasn't like. Not every win is equal. Like, sometimes a team A beats team B, and you're like, yeah, I guess they still got outgained by 100 yards and needed this fluke play and this missed field goal and et cetera, et cetera. No, the Bears just whooped them. They destroyed the Eagles in that game, and you cannot after that have the Bears behind the Eagles in power rankings. You just can't. Like, I still think there's some hope for the Eagles to rise above this and figure things out. But man, we're in December. Like, if you were going to figure it out, you would have figured it out by now. Like, it's rare for a team to get to December and then all of a sudden hit another gear. So, yeah, I'm a little worried about the Eagles, but I do think that win said more about the Bears. I think the Bears are, look, all these wins matter when you're barely beating the Raiders, when you're barely beating the Giants, when you're barely beating all these bad teams. The wins still matter. So if you do improve and hit that other gear as we get into December, all those wins are banked. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, the Bears are 9-3 and they're figuring things out. They're not, 6-5, and it's like, oh, they could rally to make the playoffs. Like we'll talk about the Cowboys. No, they're in a great position right now and getting better. I was pretty impressed with what I saw of the Bears on Black Friday.
I just like how you continually said barely, like bear. You're welcome. All right, so I want to go to the next group, but remember the Bills at 8 as we go to the next group, because the next grouping for you starting at 9 has the 49ers, then you have the Colts at 10, a big drop for them, the Lions, a big drop for them, the Jaguars go up 2. So that's your 9 through 12. How hard was it for you between the Bills and the 49ers? I'm trying to make sense of the 49ers. Yeah. They're supposed to suck. They're supposed to be 2 beat up, and all they do is win.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the 49ers are also a team that's gotten a little bit lucky with the schedule lately. They've caught some easy teams that are not exposing their defense, but they're winning. And I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to keep saying it. Coach of the year should not just be who is the best first-year head coach who turned around a team. It should be the best coach in the NFL. Kyle Shanahan's a coach of the year. I'm sorry. Like, Kyle Shanahan, to get this team to this record and have them at, I think, an 88% chance to make the playoffs via DVOA, Kyle Shanahan's the best coach of football this year. I don't know why he's not getting more respect for what he has done. All the injuries the 49ers have had, it is remarkable that they're in this position. Do I think that at some point their defense does get exposed by some of these playoff teams? Yeah, it was a tough call between the Bills and 49ers, because the Bills have been disappointing most of the year, but they did play really well against the Steelers. That probably said more about the Steelers, but still, there's that lingering, the light's still on for Josh Allen. Like, maybe the Bills get it together because they have Superman at quarterback and they still make a run. I don't really think that's going to happen, but that's why they're slightly ahead of the 49ers. But I have utter respect for what the 49ers have done this year. Most teams with the injuries they have had we'd be talking about them. Oh yeah, the 49ers are 4-8. They're just not that good. They have overcome that. They're probably going to make the playoffs. And again, Kyle Shanahan not even being really in the coach of the year discussion that much is an absolute joke. We're like, Mike Vrabel took that job over. He did this. Ben Johnson took that job over. I don't care if Kyle Shanahan's been on that job for a few years. The amount of coaching he has done with this team to get them to this record with the injuries they have had, that's your coach of the year in the NFL this year.
I think Robert Saleh could even get coach of the year as a defensive
He's been
coordinator.
Awesome. He should be hired. Crazy. Like, he's going to be a good head coach in his second job because he's not going to have Woody Johnson as his boss.
I think anybody can, once they leave the New York Jets, can excel. All right, let's look at our next group. And we see two representatives from the AFC South in this one, yet another one in your next group of rankings. That's quickly becoming one of the most intriguing divisions in the NFL, which is not on my bingo card. But we have the Chargers, the Texans, the Chiefs, and the Bucks rounding out at 16. But the Bucks just barely hanging on to a lead in the NFC South, but it looks like they may get Mike Evans back into the fold, returning from an injury. He's been on IR since mid-October. How much better can Mike Evans make the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had a Hall of Fame receiver who, and it's, I don't want to say it was just a collarbone he broke, but this is not like a ACL he's coming back from, or an Achilles or whatever. You assume that Mike Evans should, by the time he gets back in the lineup, be healthy and be ready to add to this Buccaneers offense. And then, Chris Godwin looked really good last week. Bucky Irvin came back. He looked pretty good last week. This Buccaneers team has dealt with so many injuries, and now they're kind of rounding into form. And here's another thing that's in the Buccaneers' favor. To this point, they've played the third hardest record in the third hardest schedule in the NFL. That includes a game last week against a really, really bad Cardinals team. They had the second easiest schedule the rest of the way. So the combination of adding Mike Evans to your lineup, getting an easy schedule down the stretch, I think we're going to look up and be like, oh, how did the Buccaneers get to 11 wins? Like, I didn't see that coming. So this Buccaneers team has not really had a bad loss all season. Like, they just have not really been good against the good teams, but they've done that without Mike Evans, one of the best players in the NFL over the last decade. So yes, you add Mike Evans back to that passing game. Baker Mayfield gets better. There's more room for Chris Godwin. Not everybody is just keying on Emeka Egbuka, who's had a good rookie year, but all of a sudden he's the number one guy and really the only guy in that offense for a while. He's going to get shut down as a rookie. He can't just overcome that. Well, now there's more attention to Mike Evans. I think that opens up everything for the Buccaneers. And I talked before about maybe this is a year for a weird champion. Maybe somebody just gets hot late and carries that on to a Super Bowl. Why not the Buccaneers? Like, why not? If they're going to get healthy and Mike Evans is Mike Evans, yeah, they got a shot to make a playoff run in this crazy NFL where nobody's really elite.
Before we move on, you sticking a fork in the Chiefs? Are they done?
Not yet. I'm close. I got the fork near the carcass, okay. But they're the villain in the horror movie, man. Until I see them get dirt poured on them, no, I'm still leaving the light on for the Chiefs. But it's getting harder. I mean, they got to just win games. Like, and the funny thing is, if you look at all the metrics, the Chiefs are at least as good as they were last year. Like, really, they are. The quality of play, every metric says the Chiefs are either a little bit better or the same as last season, but just close wins. They can't win close games, and that matters. That's why I dumped them so far down. I'm like, at some point, you're not making the plays in close games to win. So you got to move down the rankings.
Let's get to your next grouping, which I think is the most interesting grouping in the entire rankings this week. 17 through 20, Dallas Cowboys up 1. The Ravens, who you've been hot on all year, free fall down 8.
They had to get grounded.
The Panthers inch up. The Steelers. Right. So why? Why in the Ravens?
The Ravens, I had this, and I've had this problem all year. I'll admit to you, this season's been crazy, right? We could all admit that every time a team goes to number one, they get knocked down. Anytime we have faith in a Super Bowl contender, they lose. The Rams lose to the Panthers or whatever. And I had held on too long to what I thought about teams rather than what I was seeing. And that was my problem with the Ravens. I'll be honest with you. I kept saying, they're going to get it together. Yeah, they didn't look good against the Jets, but they're going to get it together. They barely beat the Browns, but they're going to get it together. And then you watch that Bengals game and you're like, oh no, they were trying to tell me the last few weeks are not very good. Like, the Ravens are not a good football team right now. They're just not. Like, they lost 32-14 at home. They had not played well before that, but they just got an easy part of the schedule. Lamar Jackson's a shell of himself. Like, I've never seen Lamar Jackson play this poorly. I get injuries, and it's probably the hamstring still bothering him. You don't see the same explosion, but Lamar Jackson's, he's not even like a top 20 quarterback the last few weeks. Like, he's just there. And that's troubling with me for the Ravens. So had to ground him, had to put him on timeout. They had to go way down the rankings. I was wrong. I was wrong to sit here week after week saying, worry about the Ravens. They're going to turn it on. It's hard to turn on the light switch. You always hear that in sports. Like, oh, they're going to turn it on once it comes to the playoffs. Well, probably not. If you're bad for 4 or 5 months, you're probably just a bad team. And that's where I'm at with the Ravens now. Like, they're going to win that division, but I don't see them as a threat at all in the playoffs unless they start playing better, which they've showed no signs of doing.
The Cowboys caught my attention when they beat the Raiders in the fashion they did, but I thought, okay, that's the Raiders.
The Raiders.
Now
right.
beat the Eagles. And then I said, yeah, sorry, Fitz. And I said, okay, now beat the Eagles. And then they did. And I said, okay, now beat the Chiefs. And then they did.
And then they did.
Now they have the Lions upcoming and then a rinky-dink schedule the rest of the way. Are the Cowboys a playoff team?
I think they're playing like a playoff team, but we have to figure out the math here when it comes to the NFC. Are the 49ers not going to make it? Is the second place team between the Bears and Packers not going to make it? Is the second place team between the Seahawks and Rams not going to make it? Because one of those teams has to get kicked out of the playoffs for the Cowboys to get in, and I don't see it happening. Not only that, but the Lions are still there too, ahead of the Cowboys. So if the Lions win on Thursday, and I don't know if they can with all their injuries, but if the Lions win on Thursday, the Cowboys are almost dead at that point. Like, as much as we're having fun with like, wow, this Cowboys team's emerging, you just start doing the math in the NFC playoff picture, and you're like, okay, 49ers, Seahawks, Bears, Lions, 2 of those teams got to go for the Cowboys to make it. So I think I could answer this in 2 ways. Cowboys are playing like a playoff team, and there's very little chance they make the playoffs. They need so much help ahead of them. But hey, I'm impressed with this resurgence. Hey, maybe if they had Micah Parsons all year, they wouldn't be digging out of this big hole, right? Maybe they would have been better for the first half of the season.
What about Carolina? Like, Carolina beat your number 1 team and you moved them up.
I don't know what to do, Carolina.
1? Like, what are you doing with the Panthers? Why do you hate the
I'm
Panthers?
I'm going to give you the pattern on this Panthers team the past few weeks. Lose 40-9 to the Bills. Like, beat the Packers at Lambeau Field. Come home and lose to the Saints. Like, it is, they play, and then they beat the Falcons in overtime when they put up almost 500 yards. Go on the road to San Francisco and look absolutely awful against the 49ers on Monday night. Then they come home and beat the Rams. What pattern is there? What could I possibly predict from the Panthers next? Like, there is no rhyme or reason to that 6-game stretch. They look awful, great, awful, great, awful, great. Okay, I guess they look awful next, and then great in 2 weeks. I don't know who they play, but it is the Carolina Panthers last 6 weeks sums up the entire NFL season. We don't know what to make of any of these teams. The Panthers, there's just no rhyme or reason to what you're going to see out of the Panthers every week.
Dare I also point out a funky little pattern that we've seen from the Buffalo Bills? You lose at home to the Patriots, and then the Falcons, and then you beat the Panthers and the Chiefs, and then you lose to the Dolphins, and then you obliterate the Bucks, and then you lose to the Texans, and then you obliterate the Steelers. Oh, the Bills are getting a benefit of the doubt that the Carolina Panthers don't seem to be getting in your power rankings, Frank.
No, the Bills have not won consecutive games since week 5. That's astounding. That this is the NFL season in 2025 where everybody's just kind of the same right now.
All right, let's get to our next group of teams. Unless you had something, Fitz?
Go ahead.
Okay, we've got the Dolphins at 21, the Bengals at 22, Falcons at 23, Commanders at 24. Frank, you might roll your eyes into oblivion when you hear that Fitz and I just made a case for both the Dolphins and the Bengals to find themselves in the postseason. Are you buying what we're selling?
Bengals more than the Dolphins. Like, the Dolphins have just caught a really easy part of their schedule. And good for them. Good for them to win. This might save Mike McDaniel's job. Maybe it buys Tua another season. I don't know. But good for I thought the Dolphins were one of the worst teams I've seen in a long time through those first 8 games. They've really turned it on. Hats off to them. But their path is still pretty long. Like, because they're obviously not winning the division. And then wild card gets tough to talk yourself into. The Bengals' path is, well, they play in the worst division in the NFL. Like, this division does not want the Ravens, as I just piled on a little bit ago. They don't want to be great this year. The Steelers are a bad football team. Like, the Steelers are just straight up bad football team. So all of a sudden you're the Bengals and you're like, we have one of the best quarterbacks on the planet back. We just blew out the Ravens. We're only 2 games back. We know the Steelers are going to lose some games. And now we kind of had a leg up on the Ravens too. The Bengals could steal that division at like 8-9. I don't think that's going to happen. I still think the Ravens win it, but that's the path. And it's not that unrealistic. If you're in the Bengals locker room right now, you're saying, well, let's just win out and see what happens. And I when you have a Joe Burrow back in your lineup, you can actually dream like that. I don't think it'll happen, but the path is there, which is unbelievable for a team that's 4-8 right now.
The next grouping here, I just want to get up so that we can really taunt Vikings fans. Vikings fall down 2, then Jets, Browns, Giants. I mean, Frank, I think you and I both took a lot of heat for questioning why the Vikings would move on from Sam Darnold, and it certainly seemed like people didn't like that conversation. And I don't know the right way to handle it, but like, Kevin O'Connell certainly right now has lost all my benefit of the doubt at the quarterback position. Is this the biggest fail in the NFL all season?
It might be, yeah. And not only Sam Darnold, but Daniel Jones. They had Daniel Jones in their building. I mean, if you wanted a good veteran bridge guy, like Daniel Jones didn't sign for that much money with the Colts. Like he probably thought it was a better chance for him to start with Indianapolis, and it's worked out great for him actually. But yeah, to look at those three guys and choose JJ McCarthy, not good. Max Brosmer was not the answer. Let's put it that way. The Vikings right now have a team passer rating of 69.7. There has not been a team to finish a season with less than a 70 passer rating since the 2021 Panthers. Like, this is rare for a team to be this bad at the quarterback position, and they're just awful. They're incompetent. This is the example. I've always fought back against the myth that you need an elite quarterback to win big in the NFL. You don't. There's other ways to win. We've seen non-elite quarterbacks either get close or win Super Bowls, but you can't be just a disaster at the quarterback position. And the 2025 Vikings are a disaster at the quarterback position. And that's on them. Like, they signed up for this. They saw JJ McCarthy. They knew what they had with Darnold. They presumably knew what they had with Daniel Jones. They choose door number 3, and it was a zonk. Like, this is a bad football team right now just because of the quarterback situation.
If we don't look at, because there's some funky quarterback situations for a lot of these teams in these groupings, but let's look at the Vikings and the Browns. Are we giving up on JJ McCarthy, and are we giving up on Dylan Gabriel?
Probably with the Browns first. Gabriel, like, he just never projected as a franchise type of guy. Like, it's third to sixth round picks at quarterback. I get why teams make them. You're trying to hit the Dak Prescott lottery, and it helps your franchise so much if you do. But most of those picks are wastes. You draft those guys, you watch them play, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's why he was available in the third round. That's just the truth. Like, look back at this, the Kyle Lauletta type of picks, where Davis Mills and all that, where you're just like, yeah, this ain't it. We just wasted a top 100 pick on this guy. I don't think Dylan Gabriel's a franchise quarterback. Shedeur probably has a better shot at being a franchise quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. He's probably not it either. It's tough that way, but it's tougher with the Vikings because McCarthy's only played 6 games. Yes, he's been really, really bad. We all know he's been really, really bad, but it's still 6 games for the 10th pick. I'd probably try to see if the light's on there, but they need to do what the Colts did and just say, look, we're bringing in a veteran. We're going to overpay a veteran to come in and compete. We don't want to, but we have to now. They're going to have to bring in a backup plan like the Colts did with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, because I don't know how you just go in with any confidence in JJ McCarthy as your quarterback next season.
We'll take a quick look at the last. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of franchise quarterbacks, we have one potential one of this next grouping. We have the Cardinals, the Saints, the Raiders, and the Titans. Let's look at the dead last position in the NFL. Is Cam Ward a franchise quarterback?
I don't know. I just don't know. I love that all the tape guys that I see on Twitter every day, like, look at this awesome throw by Cam Ward. And I'm like, didn't the Titans score 3 points? Like, haven't they scored like 17 points in their last like 4 games? Don't they have the lowest scoring offense in the NFL this year? Don't they have the fewest yards in the NFL this year? The Titans rank last in just about every offensive category you could rank last in. I totally get that the Titans situation's bad. Coach is already fired. The talent around Cam Ward's not good. I get all that. But I'm not going to sit here and just say, look at these 5 plays. Don't look at anything else for Cam Ward. Like, Cam Ward's been pretty bad. Like, and I get that the deck is stacked against him. I do. And I want Cam Ward to succeed. And ultimately, I do think Cam Ward's going to be fine. But I can't sit here and say with any confidence that Cam Ward is like a no doubt franchise guy based on what we've seen. Like, I'm not going to sit here and look at these 6 throws from the past month and Cam Ward's awesome. Like, I guess like that's awesome. That's great. Cool. Like, he's got a great arm and he's scrambling really well and he could do some things. He's got some talent, but play by play with the Tennessee Titans, why don't you post the other 74 plays that he had, which were just not good? Like, we can't just pick and choose tape, guys. Like, let's get the whole picture of Cam Ward, and the whole picture is really not pretty. Now, that might just be the Titans, but let's be honest, it hasn't been pretty.
Frank, I will just remind everybody that right now we are 13 weeks into the season. There are 11 teams in the NFL with 8 or more losses out of those 13 games. There is a lot of suck. Frank,
a lot of bad.
You held up well. You held up well against the questioning. We appreciate you coming out and just allowing yourself to be fully law and ordered. Like, we're just drilling you here. Like, one of us is arresting the other's prosecuting, and then we're just going boom, boom, over and over and over again. Check it out at Yahoo Sports. Follow him at Yahoo Schwab. Frank, always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for the time.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Frank.
It is amazing to me, Caroline, that you look at this. The Rams at 1, the Titans at 32. No shock there. Top riser for the Bears, 6. Top faller for the Ravens, 8. I'm going to give Frank a lot of credit. He went in and corrected some things this week, and I think his point was an important one on the Ravens. At some point, we have to take what we thought away, recalibrate, and ask what we're seeing right now.
And we've been waiting for Frank to do that. Every week we're like, Frank, come on. The Ravens are so far below 500. You have to get a pair of binoculars to find some light at the end of the tunnel there. And of course, there's always that benefit of the doubt that you're going to give teams like Ravens when they have quarterbacks like Lamar. But at some point, you just have to see the proof of concept. I'm getting there with the Chiefs as well. I'm with Frank. I'm hovering my fork, ready to put it in the Chiefs. I just am not quite ready yet. But I think I'm there with the Ravens, even if they do win this division. They're not doing anything in the postseason.